Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on
Thanks.
networking, and especially networking around holiday season.
Yep.
And today we have Mr. Larry Miller as our special guest. And some of you might have seen Larry in our previous webinar on wealth management. But if you missed, please check out our YouTube channel. But Larry, if you don't mind, could you introduce yourself again?
Sure. My name is Larry Miller. Worked in financial services for about 15 years in various capacities, most recently and for the longest period of my career as a wealth manager and a banker.
And you have also, I think you went to Villanova for undergraduate degree.
I did. I went to Villanova. I double majored in philosophy and English. And then I went to the London School of Economics, and I got a master's degree in economics and philosophy. Did
you go straight from college to graduate school, or you worked for a little while?
I did. I went straight. I went straight to LSE, mostly to get to the degree, but also because I didn't really want to know what I wanted to do with my life, and I wanted to kind of figure it out. And philosophy and economics kind of helped me get there.
Philosophy and economics, that's a very interesting combination. So we can talk about how that helped you with your career in a little bit. So I was in a similar boat, I would say. For those of you that we never met before, I'm Heather. I'm the founder of ChampAmerica. We specialize in workforce development, especially for those of you that are leaving school or you're just starting your career. I also went straight to business school after undergrad, also because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
And where'd you go again?
I went to Georgetown.
So we're better at basketball than you.
You sure about that? Some other years, right? Some years. But I also worked in financial services, not quite in the same field. And a lot of you, for a lot of you trying to explore different career options, I think our webinars provide you with the opportunity to meet with people that you otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to meet. But today we're going to talk about networking. Right. It was at one point my least favorite topics because it didn't come natural to me. Right. And I feel awkward. I feel embarrassed until I had to go through the motion and start doing it. And sometimes I just, go through the motion and be like, why am I here? This is so painful for me. But now, after many years, I've been having gotten a few jobs maybe through networking. I truly see the benefit. Yeah. Okay. So what's your view? Have you ever leveraged networking to find jobs?
I've only gotten jobs through networking, and I don't mean that in a weird way. You can find a job through a recruiter. You can find a job through Monster or whatever. But it's way harder. It's way harder. Like, if you can get involved with somebody who knows a person who might know a job, that's the way to do it. A lot of people think that HR is the way you get in. HR is really like a barrier, right? They're not the decision maker. It's the person who's hiring is the decision maker. So HR may say this person isn't suitable, and they may say somebody is suitable, but they're not going to determine who gets it. Right? It's the hiring person. Right. So if you can get in touch with that person, that makes it a lot easier.
So what's your way of getting in touch with that person?
So it's a matter of, so when people say networking, it sounds scary, and it's not networking. It's figuring out who you know, going out to dinner with them, going out to lunch with them, grabbing coffee with them, seeing how you can explore who they know, and then you're slowly expanding who you know through your friends. Right. It's not mischievous. It's not weird. It's like It's normal social interaction.
Right. So this is why I think to me the revelation is I might not have walked away from a meeting getting exactly what I wanted, i.e. a job, at the time when I was looking for a job. But I feel like I first learned something about this company or what this person does. And then it's always music to my ear when people said, hey, I know so-and-so in this area that you might want to talk to.
Sure.
And I always feel like, okay, that is the real accomplishment today,
yep.
even though I didn't walk away with a job.
I think, to your point, just being naturally curious is fundamental, right? You and I, right, we get along super well, but we have very different backgrounds. Yeah. We went to different schools, but like we find commonality, right? Finding commonality with people, being curious about people. You'd be shocked. I mean, I've had a bunch of different jobs that are like related but different, and it's because I just am constantly keeping my ear to the ground and talking to people and trying to understand how the world works. And I think that's super important, is if you're genuine and curious, that's what networking is.
So a lot of people ask us, how do I even start networking? And if you're in school, I always say, check out your alumni network, right?
Yeah.
And these days with LinkedIn, it makes things super easy that you can just see, oh, we're connected at Georgetown, you worked here, I interned there, so we crossed. There's something to talk about, right?
Yep.
And the next thing up is, how do I reach out to that person? Because sometimes it feels weird when I shoot an email out or a message to a stranger.
Yep.
And at that point, I always tell people, be specific. If you sent me a very generic email.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's the worst, right?
Yeah.
Do you tend to respond to very generic requests?
So, I'm a little weird in that I respond pretty much to anybody who reaches out, who's in my network, friends or alumni.
In your network.
Yeah, so like if somebody from my high school, somebody from my college, somebody from my grad school reaches out to me, I will respond.
Okay.
I will respond more enthusiastically if it's more geared towards like, hey, Larry, you work at such and such firm. I'm interested in that for this reason, rather than some generic,
absolutely,
dear gentleman, right?
This is my resume. I'm interested in a job in the financial services industry, right?
Or I've gotten ones that say like, I'm interested in marketing, and I'm like, well, that's phenomenal. I don't do that.
Right.
So, but I think in general, people are very enthusiastic about helping people in their alumni network. Willing to have a coffee, willing to, just have a chat. I've had conversations with alumni because they lived in California and our time difference was different, super late or super early, just over the phone, strangers, but happy to give them advice. There was a woman who went to my grad school who had a doctorate degree in mathematics.
Wow.
Who way smarter than me, but reached out to me, and
you're way more humble.
And she was like, look, I'm trying to get on a quant desk at Citi, which is where I worked a while ago. I don't know anybody there. I'm applying to this job. Can you help me? She still has that job.
Oh, wow. Were you the one that got her in? Or through you, at least you were one of the channels that she went through?
I knew somebody who dealt with the quant desk. And so I reached out to my buddy who was a trader and said, hey, this girl seems amazingly qualified. She went to school with me. Would you mind having a chat with her? And, and then she got the job on her own, but
that's awesome. But you help her open the door.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. the problem I think for a lot of students have is that they feel like I am one in a million. I'm the one that's sort of like beggars can't be choosers, and I'm really the one, trying to get people to help me to get in the door, right?
Right.
So that's a mindset. I always tell people you have to believe in yourself. You're a good candidate.
Sure.
Right? You're someone that offers a lot of value. Might not be immediately today, but you're a very good candidate, and down the road you'll do great things. So you kind of have to change that mindset first to feel comfortable and confident asking for help. That's number one. And then number two is just, and I think you alluded to that as well, don't feel weird about reaching out to other people, right?
No.
Most people, if they don't help you, they probably won't remember you anyway. So just getting caught up in that, no, he or she didn't respond to me, or that person didn't want to help me, that isn't something that other people remember, will probably hold you back more than impacting other people.
Right. So to pick up on your second point first, networking, socializing, you only get good at it by practicing it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So screw it up.
It's necessary evil.
Yeah, go out there, screw it up, figure out what you did wrong, figure out what you did right. You're gonna learn that, like, over time, you'll hear yourself saying something and somebody reacts, and then you'll hear yourself saying the same thing to a different person, and they react similarly, and you're like, all right, so that's in the playbook. Right. Not that it's rehearsed or scripted or anything, but like
you kind of need a little repertoire.
And you get more confidence. You get the feeling that you're getting better at it. But like, even if you're naturally good at it, there are things that I'm naturally not good at. But like, even
very few things.
You gotta get out there, even if you're not confident about it, and just do it, be terrible at it, and then like,
but be original, right?
Yeah, and persevere.
Right.
And just keep getting a little bit better at it next time. What was your first point?
That don't feel like you're not qualified enough.
Oh, that's so important. I remember when I was interviewing for my first job at a grad school, and I felt like I was way out of my depths, like didn't know anything. And I remember people, really senior people, telling me like, hey, you're not just interviewing for this job, you're interviewing them for the job. It's a two-way street.
Right.
And I just thought that was nonsense. Because I was super young. I wanted a job. It was a very prestigious firm. It was a great job. I was super nervous. And I just thought that was crazy. And in retrospect, 15 years later, I look back at that and I go, yeah, that's what you do. Like, when I go into an interview now, like, I literally think like, okay, so like, what are they going to offer me? What am I going to offer them?
Right.
It's a trade back. But I think when you're young, you don't think about that.
That's a really good point. And I have to say, I went through the same kind of revelation, right? Being super nervous. And then as a hiring manager later on, is when we see a good candidate, we actually have to try pretty hard to try to impress that candidate.
Absolutely.
Even not to mention to other firms, just sister groups within the same company might be eyeing the same candidate as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you're truly qualified, your resume stand out, and you're a good fit for the company, there's definitely nothing to feel embarrassed about.
No. And, again, rejection is not fun, but it's
part of life, right?
Part of life. And, yeah, I mean, you're going to get, unfortunately, you're going to get more rejection than you're going to get positive. But like, when you get the positive, it's really good. And that's, that's part of working in finance. That's part of networking. I think that's the other thing about networking is nobody really talks about, but knowing when to let go. Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of networking is reciprocal. Right. It's it doesn't even like so I work in financial services, and like, you know, would I love people to refer me accounts all day? For sure. But if somebody says to me like, hey, I need a good doctor, or do you know an attorney, or where do you get your hair cut? Like literally. It's just be a good person. Right.
Exactly.
Like help people out. There are people in the world that just don't reciprocate. And at some point, and my wife taught me this, you just have to cut them out and find new people.
Right.
Because and then for everybody there's a different line, but there is a line.
Right.
And that's an important part, because there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only 7 days in a week.
And I can only help so many people.
Right. And I can only speak with so many people. So that's an important part of networking too, is if you get really good at it, you got to figure out like who your people are.
Right.
And like who your network is.
And develop that friendship and relationship.
Right.
That sort of transcends one job. It becomes friends for life or for a long period of time.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, it's the same thing with like what we were talking about before with the you're interviewing, right? You're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. You have a network of people. Just because somebody wants to leech off of you and like reap your benefits doesn't mean you have to let them.
Right.
Right. It's a two-way street.
Right. So that gets us into holiday. And we were chatting a little bit before as to why is holiday such a good time to network and do these things. Right.
So for a few reasons. One is holiday parties. A lot of companies have them. It's a great benefit for employees, but it's also an opportunity for you to go and network and, you know, maybe have a couple drinks, maybe have some food, and just chat with people, see what they're interested in. The other thought I had was that people travel. People, you know, I like two of my groomsmen. One guy lives in San Francisco. The other guy lives in Missouri. Another guy lives in England. They come home. I'm from New Jersey. They come home, and I see them over the holidays.
So these are high school friends.
Those are high school and college buddies. And I don't really get to see them throughout the year except for that. And it's not that I'm necessarily like networking or trying to get something from the interaction, but like that's an example of ways to connect with people that you might not see throughout the year.
Yeah, and new opportunities, new ideas could come up.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I thought is during the holidays, and especially what I can remember working in the corporate world, around the holiday season, it's always a little slower, right? A lot of people take time off, and the trading volume is low. Work is all wrapped up, right? Or getting wrapped up. So, and it might not be the time to find a job. It probably wouldn't be the time that you can find anything, right? That's the honest reality. For most companies, this is the time when books close, budget's set for the year, but you're working on something for next year, right? And with a lot of people out of the office, it isn't a time when people is looking to bring in a candidate unless it's an emergency sort of replacement hire that people need to get. But otherwise, the hiring will probably pick up right after New Year, mid-January, right? That's when things get picked up, get really busy again. But during the holiday season, it's time for people to kind of reflect. So there were times I had 2-3 coffee chats a day, right? Boss is out, right? No one's around. So finish my work and manage my day and just catch up with people, some for my own networking, some for other people from outside the organization coming to network with me. So yeah, that could be a good time to just, really slow down. So you probably have easier time even catching people that you normally wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think now is the time to kind of set yourself up for a job next year. Getting a job this year is unlikely.
Yeah.
Just because of the way people get paid and like you said, budgets getting set and things of that nature. It's just natural business cycle. The only exception to that, this is like super specific, but there are some businesses that don't run on a calendar year.
Right. Yeah.
They run on a different fiscal year.
Right.
And so they're doing things differently.
Yeah. If you're a June to June kind of organization, right? This could still be a time.
Right. Yeah. Which tend to be like accounting, consulting firms. Yeah.
So would you say this is still a good time to network?
Oh, I mean it's always a good time to network.
Network for job, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would think now is probably the most important time to be networking for a job, because the likelihood you meet, a guy or a gal at a bar, and on February 1st and you have a job February 15th is like 0.
Right.
Right. But you start talking with your friends now, and I had a conversation with a guy 2 weeks ago. It's something that's very different, but it's related. And he was like, "Oh yeah, well, he's the president of a company," and he was like, we're clearing this part of the house. We might need a guy. We're setting our budget. Let's have a chat.
Interesting.
That's what's happening at all companies.
Right. And if you're, so you talked about consulting firm, right? The big fours. Roll around a new year, they're going to be in their busy time.
But that's why they changed their fiscal calendar. Right. Is because they can't close their books and close the books of their clients at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this will be a good time to say, hey, let me put a filler out there and see who might need people.
Yeah.
Right. And January, once people get paid, sometimes, investment bank, there's opportunities that open up.
For sure.
People from consulting firms move, right? Within financial services, they move, and then it triggers this whole movement, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes all it takes is for a couple of opportunities to open up, and then it triggers a whole flow of the system.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, specifically in financial services, there's a huge ramp up in risk management and audit positions because there's a real, and then it's both consulting and in the banks themselves. And then you see a flow between the banks and the consulting firms in terms of employees, because there's just massive regulation and change in regulation for a variety of reasons. So that's, that's a huge area of interest.
So what advice, holiday networking, would you give to people? Be merry, drink, and eat.
Yeah. I honestly think just like genuinely being yourself, being, being curious, just wanting to know about other people, especially if you're nervous going into it, like people love talking about themselves.
Right.
Look at me.
You're not alone.
So if you're nervous or you're socially, kind of timid, ask a question. You'd be surprised how long somebody talk about it.
Right. Yeah.
And then listen. That's super important. And then ask them a question about what they just said. It's not, it's not rocket science.
Right.
Yeah.
And also just, I think people's mood are generally pretty good. They're more, they feel charitable. It's a season of giving, right? So if you just ask for people's time and respect people's time, show up, be prepared, and just be professional and personable. I feel like there's definitely more people that's going to be willing to help you.
Right.
So.
And I think, I don't think I can emphasize it enough. Just being genuine, being honest, being yourself, even if you are nervous that people are going to think that you're, goofy or whatever. Like, I'm goofy. Like, but like people who are just nice and open and honest,
right?
and asking good questions.
Mm-hmm. And it's good that if you meet someone during the holidays, write an email, wish them happy holidays.
Absolutely.
Right? And always a couple of weeks later, after the holidays, remind them, look for an internal referral opportunity for me.
Right.
Or, follow up on a topic, just kind of build upon those little steps.
And also, if you can make the person you met's life easier, do that. So like, hi, I'm applying to a job at such and such, like, they work at such and such company. Go to their website.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at the job openings.
Right.
And be very specific. Be like, hey, Greg, it was great to meet you the other night. I remember we talked about how both of our favorite colors were blue, right? So you remember something specific.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, I was looking at your career website,
mm-hmm.
and I saw this job in XYZ department
mm-hmm.
at the associate level. Here's the link.
Right.
Do you know anybody who might be able to help me out?
Mm-hmm.
Probably Greg gets a bonus if you get the job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you make their life easier and they have to click a link to get you a job opportunity,
mm-hmm.
And it pays them $5,000,
mm-hmm.
who wouldn't do that?
And don't be discouraged if people don't respond to you immediately. It does happen.
Of course.
And Greg might just not be into clicking on the link and making $5,000 extra.
Right.
So
Greg might be very busy.
Right.
Greg might be getting married. You might have a death in the family.
Right.
Don't take it personally. Don't internalize it. I once had a mentee who said to me, and we work in sales, so it's it's a little bit skewed, but he was like, I just wish I would get as many wins as losses. I wish it was 50-50. And I was like, you can't think of it that way.
Right.
Because that's not life.
Mm.
The guy was interviewing for a job with me one time. He said, what's it like working here? And I said, there will be days that you'll be walking home and you could get hit by a bus and it wouldn't wipe the smile off your face. And there will be days when you're walking home thinking I shouldn't do this. I should be doing something else because I'm not very good at this. And you need to remember the really good days and you need to let the bad days go by.
Right.
It's the same thing with networking.
Exactly. And it is a numbers game as well, right?
Yeah.
The more you do it, the more results you will see.
And the better you get at it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel like I need to go out and network a little more. But great chat.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
To you.
Yeah.
And let's go network.
Okay. Sounds good.
Right? Thank you.